Welcome to another reaction video. Today we're going to be reacting to a discussion of marriage on the Whatever podcast, and Michael Knowles is the guest, and let's hear what he has to say.
You don't want to get married?
No.
No. Why not?
Uh-oh.
All right.
Yeah,
Bad location. What's wrong with you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 1v7. Okay. Well, so I'm not opposed to necessarily having a life partner, but there are certain. Sorry, I'm sorry, Michael. There are certain realities when it comes to marriage that, from the male perspective, make it seem risky.
To your point, Brian, you make a good amount of money. The way the judicial system works, if a woman divorced you, she could take a bunch of your money, she could take your kids. So there's a risk. But my question is, if you're already going to have a life partner, which sounds, I'm sorry to say, kind of gay, like it's not gendered, it's not traditional.
Thank you for saying that.
It's just if you're going to do that anyway, but you want to protect against divorce, why not just marry a woman who's not going to get divorced?
Well, or get a prenup.
Thing,
literally.
So you're saying, like, well, if you find a great woman that you know that's
not even just that. I'm saying because you could find the most wonderful woman in the world, and then I don't know, someday something goes off in her brain and she totally turns on you. But what if you create the structures such that you're not going to get divorced? I'll give you an example. I'm Catholic. My wife and I cannot get divorced.
I've got news for him. Happens all the time.
She could murder me. That would be her way out of the marriage. But it is not possible for us to get divorced.
Yeah, basically all you have to do is leave the Catholic Church. And in many places, you don't have to leave the Catholic Church to do it. It's just ignored. He's saying you can't be a good Catholic and get divorced. But this whole point, this gent here is talking about the risk when other people don't behave. Let's say you're the true blue guy. What do you do when your wife turns on you? What do you do if your church doesn't back you up? What if you do if the judges are corrupt and they don't back you? What do you do? That's a reasonable question.
Now,
But is that why you don't want to get married? Because you're afraid of the divorce potentially?
Afraid of women. Why not just date another successful woman?
Do you have trust issues?
No, he's not afraid of women. He's afraid of women and the legal system. He's afraid of the state of marriage and divorce law.
Brian?
Wow, this
sounds like
you have trust issues.
It's just Michael and the girls here. I'm intervening with you, Brian.
Like, if you dated another successful woman, wouldn't that fear kind of disappear?
No, I think that's probably increases the odds against him.
I don't see the benefit.
This is why I asked, don't you want a wife?
Of having a companion?
I can have a companion and not be married. And I'm not a fan of the government, so I don't want the government involved in my love
But
affair.
if you
Do you
live
want
with
children?
someone more than 10 years, you're going to
Be legally married.
It's common.
The problem with his libertarian appeal right here is that in Scripture, marriage of necessity creates property and custody issues. And the magistrate is the one appointed by God to adjudicate property and custody issues. King Solomon adjudicates the custody dispute between the two harlots. It is not tyrannical or overreach when the civil magistrate has to determine who owns what. And marriage necessarily creates those sorts of situations. So it's not possible to simply have a purely contractual arrangement.
So I don't have anything against for other people. That's great. I've sort of looked at the numbers. I've done the calculus, and to me, it seems like, here, I'll put the math here. I've done the math. 50% of marriages end in divorce, and the stats I've seen, 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And so when I say it's bad for the man, the negative consequences of divorce typically tend to disproportionately impact men. They can impact women, but I think 97% of alimony payments go from men to women. So
I think that one of the things he's pointing to, and this is a good time to insert this, is that he's articulating his reluctance. And he's doing so kind of courageously with his table surrounded by women, where he's saying he doesn't think that marriage is good for men. But there are a lot of men who are on strike when it comes to marriage. They're on strike in a similar way, and for all these same reasons, but they're just not writing letters to the editor about it. They're not talking about it publicly, but they are responding to the disincentives that our legal structure has created. And so one of the pressing pastoral problems that many conservative ministers have is churches that have a lopsided ratio of the women, older women, unmarried women who want to be married, vastly outnumbering the men in their age cohort. And this is, I think this is because of the social dynamics he's talking about, at least in part.
Brian, who hurt
Most
you?
prenups in
yeah.
Like,
Who-
Okay,
okay.
let me ask
Like,
you a
I feel
question
like you're
though.
always
Yeah.
worried about like something gonna happen bad. Like, why don't you just
wrong.
like?
Now, the thing that is that's quite striking here is that his reasoning, which makes sense to a lot of men, appears to be just sailing over their heads, where they're saying, but what about love? Or what? They're operating with a different calculus.
You have no trust and faith in
But
these
I think
women.
it's the system.
Well, that's what he's saying. Your argument can't come back. You have no trust or faith when his argument is, I have no trust or faith that this is going to go well for me. You can't respond by saying, your problem is you have no trust or faith. Yes, his point exactly.
Society we live in now.
well,
'cause
let me
there's
ask
so
you a
much
question.
bad
also, like,
things.
Let me ask you a question. So how many people get married and they think, hey, this is the person I love, we're going to be together forever, and then you hear that divorce rate, it's like 50% of marriages end in divorce.
I think when people get married very young, right?
But isn't that the best time to get married?
Not
Well,
Michael,
necessarily.
your thoughts on that?
Some of the
you're like an exception.
I didn't get married young though. I've only been married now about 5 years, but I should have gotten married younger. It's one of my quasi regrets in life. But some of the best marriages I've ever seen were people who got married 20 years old or 22 or 23 years old. I just wonder, Brian, if because all the objections you're raising are completely legit.
Sure.
I just wonder if you are looking at an alternative that doesn't really exist, that's illusory. Because if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have more freedom if I don't get married, I don't know if that's true. You know, if you're always in one of these situations, even if you're just dating, where you think, well, where are we? Where do we stand? Is he going to leave me? Is this that? Is that? In a marriage, in a proper marriage, all that is gone. And so you think, I had a bad day, I got in a fight with my wife, I didn't do the laundry, whatever. Doesn't matter, especially if you believe in marriage like marriage really is.
But that's especially if you believe in marriage. The whole problem with our society is that very few people do believe in it that way. Of course, if you have a man and a woman who, for religious reasons, believe that the grounds for divorce are very limited and specified by God, and that unless those conditions are met, you're married. Well, but how common are those people? Well, I don't think they're as common as Michael thinks they are.
You say this is an institution defined by real things. I made a covenant before God and the political community. I signed up with the government. They're going to take my money if I break this covenant. And that actually, it seems like it puts limitations on you.
But Brian's whole objection is, they could take my money if I don't break the covenant. That's the issue. Of course, if you make a covenant, there should be a cost if you're the one who breaks covenant. Brian's whole problem is that the system is rigged. I might have the money gone whether or not I break covenant. The other person could be the covenant breaker, and the system is rigged. That's his complaint.
But it actually gives you a ton of freedom, because you can think, oh, I'm here. We're in this. There's no getting out.
100%
There's no way out
agree.
but through, and so we're just going to make this thing work. I find it's a very freeing experience.
It is a freeing experience if you're dealing with Christians who believe in a covenant-keeping God and who believe in the Scriptures and who attend church faithfully and who are, marriage is the best. But the non-believing world doesn't know how to be married. That's the problem. Brian, I think you're raising all the right questions. These are all reasonable questions, but you can't find answers to them in an unbelieving society. Basically, if you're dealing with the foundational presuppositions of unbelief, your calculus works. You're going to be lonesome at the end of the day, but the calculus works and you kept your money. But you don't want to be lonesome at the end of the day and have lost your money too. That's your argument. You need to come to Christ. That's it. This is a preacher talking. The answer is God, Jesus, Bible.